Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming. Great group today, and I sense a good spirit in the room, and I appreciate that. What a difference a year makes. So I was thinking about what we were doing last year. Last year at this time, Chancellor Bennett had just announced his retirement. And we spent a good part of this presentation a year ago looking back over the first 10 years of his tenure at the university and celebrating the many, many good things that had occurred. But we were also 8 months into a new governor's term, and in that very short time had already experienced a $6+ million withholding of funds. I think he did that on the second day he was in office, followed by passage of a budget that reduced funding by another $8+ million for Missouri State University. And so we knew a very difficult year was ahead of us a year ago. So I contrast that. Today we have a new chancellor who's off to a great start and is looking ahead to where this campus can go and what we can accomplish together. And as important, we have a new governor who wants to invest in workforce development, which includes the 2- and 4-year pieces of higher education instead of defunding it. And so I believe a better year is ahead of us. Having said that, I want to do two primary things in my talk this afternoon. I want to go through some of the accomplishments of last year and highlight some of the good things that occurred on both campuses, despite the financial difficulties that we were working through. And then second, I want to talk about some of the challenges and frankly, opportunities this campus faces and share with you specifically the direction I have given Chancellor Lawler and her team to work on for the coming year. And then Dr. Lawler will share some of her initial thoughts with you, and we are both happy to take questions at the end about anything you heard or anything you didn't hear that you want to hear about. And so, and then I hope everyone will stay. We're doing a reception for Shirley that's in this building a couple doors down, and hope you will stay and visit with each other and with us and celebrate her arrival and the beginning of her tenure here at the university. We had hoped we would dedicate Hass-Darr today, but we're a little bit behind on that. And so I'll be back down a month from now, and we'll do that in September. So let's pop through here. And so I want to kind of talk through, and I'll show you some data here. And so one of the things we start with, we always track how we're doing on enrollment. And so this is Missouri State system enrollment. And so we set a record for the 6th year in a row as a system and had 26,216 students attending class in fall of a year ago. West Plains numbers are in there, and so we'll see those separately, but it's over 1,900 students, and so it is important as we evaluate as a system what we're doing. West Plains is an important piece of this. If we go to the next slide, on the Springfield campus, a big piece of this you can see is that the demographics of our student body has changed as we have intentionally looked to recruit students from every county in the state and of all backgrounds. And so a part of what's driving the growth on the Springfield campus is we've done a better job, frankly, of recruiting students of color, and went over 3,000 for the first time last year in 2017. More importantly, though, than how many students are attending is, are they graduating? Are they making it through? Because as a public institution, one of our major responsibilities is to graduate people into the workforce, prepared to begin their professional careers and to help our state grow and to be good citizens and good taxpayers. And you can see we had a goal. These are just Springfield numbers. We'll look at the West Plains numbers in a minute. We had a goal, our board set as a goal for our 5-year plan that on the Springfield campus we would have 4,900 credentials by year 5. And so you'll see that after year 2 we've already hit that, and we graduated more people in terms of degrees and certificates than we ever had in our history before. Our long-range plan goal was 4,900. I'm confident the board will set us a new goal to shoot for when we gather in October. I talked a little bit in the introduction about funding, and so we had that $8.5 million cut a year ago, and then we were looking at another $8.5 million cut on top of that in January of this year. And so one of our major goal in the legislature this year was to restore funding, and we got essentially almost all of that funding restored, and so $6.5 million of cuts recommended by the governor, the legislature put back in, and Governor Parson has signed that budget bill. We do not anticipate any withholding this year, and so we know what our budget's going to be, and that's very helpful. The money that was not restored, there was about another $2 million on top of that, but we had budgeted this year not expecting to have that because it had already been withheld. And so essentially we were able to achieve flat funding for this year. And so while flat funding is not ideal because we have inflation on top of that, it was significantly better than we were anticipating and that Governor Greitens had proposed. We also, and so that money is divided between the two campuses, and the West Plains campus directly benefited from that. You'll remember when we talked about budgets in the spring that we had budgeted 2 different ways. One is if the money was restored, one is if it was not. And so fortunately the money was restored, and that essentially is going to allow us to get through this year. We were also successful in a variety of other ways there that you see on the screen that primarily impact the Springfield campus. That last piece was a goal that we'd been shooting for a long time. The 4-year schools are limited to increasing their tuition for undergraduate in-state students to CPI, or whatever the inflationary rate is. We got a bill passed this year that relaxes that requirement in years where state funding goes down. And students may think, well, that's not really a good idea. But it is in a way, because it gives the legislature an incentive not to cut us, because then they would be directly responsible for a tuition increase. And so I think that's a win for all of us in terms of that legislative piece. And so we had a very successful year in the state legislature. All these bills passed. All of them have been signed into law by the governor. All became effective on August the 28th, and so we're very pleased with that. In the meantime, just as on the West Plains campus, you all were looking at ways to cut services and become more efficient and save money, we were doing the same thing both for the system and on the Springfield campus, and so we were able to do some things in terms of our bond funding that saved real money. We've kind of led the way of all of higher ed in terms of maximizing our procurement card use and having our vendors pay us on a credit card that gives us a rebate that has resulted in real money coming back. We outsourced Blackboard hosting services. And then we renegotiated a variety of contracts, including saving $300,000 on our health insurance contract that we all benefit with through Mercy, and then a variety of other things there. Unfortunately, we had to, on the Springfield campus, eliminate 32 positions, and that included 7 layoffs. And fortunately, I do not believe on this campus we had to do layoffs last year. But I can give you good news that 6 of the 7 people found are already reemployed. several of them on campus, and so that's been a positive thing. And we also did some reorganization that allowed us to eliminate positions on top of that. In terms of our outside funding, record year. Foundation raised over $21.5 million. Again, and so gifts that were a part of, say, for example, the Hass-Darr project or scholarships or things for West Plains are included in that amount. We have one foundation, as you know, that serves the entire system, and so there is certainly West Plains money in that first line, as there is in the contracts and grants line. And again, a record year, and so almost $48 million of external funding came in. Again, almost all of that is dedicated to specific things, but that was a tremendously good year. And on the grants and contract side, our faculty and staff at all of our campuses contributed to have that tremendous result. Part of the deal that we made with the legislature to restore the funding was we would limit tuition increases this year, and so on both of our campus we did a 1% increase. That's less than half of inflation, and so tuition went up only $1 per credit hour on the West Plains campus and went up $2 per credit hour on the Springfield campus. On the Springfield campus, we were able to knock out something we had been trying to work on for a long time. And this helps all of our transfer students that start here and come to Springfield or start with us in Springfield, and that is we had a 125-hour requirement for graduation, and most of the other schools in Missouri had 120 hours. The Higher Learning Commission requires only 120 hours, and so we were at a competitive disadvantage on that. And we were able to work with our faculty and get that number reduced, and the board approved this year a reduction in the requirement of hours to graduate to 120. That applies to almost 80% of our programs. There are still some programs, like many of the education programs, that require more because of accreditation issues or state mandates, but for our overall university requirement is now 120 hours to graduate, and for our undergraduate students from Missouri, that saves them about $1,100 in terms of tuition costs. Given the challenges that we had at the state legislature, as you all know that work here, we're not able to do an across-the-board raise this year, but everyone will on Thursday of this week when you get your paycheck. If you worked for us a year ago, you'll have a one-time retention payment of $700 added to that. Simply, our board wanted to convey how important our faculty and staff are to us, and so we used $1.8 million of reserves centrally to fund that. That doesn't impact the reserves on the West Plains campus. We funded that centrally out of Springfield, and so know that will occur this week. And then once the final census numbers are in, our executive budget committee will meet and we'll be working on a structure for, assuming enrollment comes in as expected, for a mid-year salary increase. Shirley's a part of that committee, and so it's already set to meet the last week in September. More to come on that. Well, it should have something to talk to the board about at our October meeting. And then we continue to work on facilities projects. Just a reminder that by and large, very little money comes out of our operating budget to fund facilities projects. Now, you know, we do have to maintain them and pay for the electricity, but beyond those kind of things, no ongoing money was spent on any of these projects. On Springfield campus, we were able to dedicate Glass and Ellis Hall. That work mostly had been done over a year ago, and we opened those buildings in September and October of the last academic year. We finished up a complete renovation of Hill Hall that houses our education college as well as the Department of Psychology last week, and it is a beautiful new building. New Health and Wellness Center that benefits everyone is open, and that is paid for completely by a student voted-in fee that funded construction of a tremendous new facility that all our faculty, staff, and students can take advantage of. And as I said earlier, we will dedicate Hass Hall next month. it is finally starting to come together and looks like it will be a tremendous facility. IT infrastructure is always a major increasing expense. Cybersecurity threats, there are literally hundreds of them every month that we're trying to manage, while at the same time we're trying to enhance wireless coverage and update Blackboard and replace obsolete hardware, and that's true on both of our campuses. And so you'll see some of the things that we worked on there. And so as you can see, really many good things occurred this year despite the financial challenges both campuses face this year. But there are clearly areas that we can continue to improve in and work on. And on this campus, there are 4 major areas that I have asked Dr. Lawler to evaluate, to develop plans and strategies to address, and then to begin to execute those plans this year, recognizing that much of this work will go beyond the current year. You will all be important in proposing and executing those solutions. And so none of these are a surprise to Shirley. We've talked about these. We talked about them in the interview, and they're in her ADP, and so we work on where we are. And so let's take a look at that. And so a piece of it is, go back one, Cheryl, before we move to the next chart here. So stabilizing enrollment. We're going to look at enrollment data for West Plains here in a minute. But there are multiple pieces to that. There's a recruitment piece of that, there's a retention piece of that, and there is, the potential to add programs that would add students who would otherwise not come to the campus. And so that's the first piece, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. And then we need to work on improving our course completion rates, our graduation and transfer rates, and our award numbers, and I'll show you the data that goes with those categories of things as well. All of these first 2 things are also performance funding measures the state evaluates us on, and money is directly connected to them. So besides doing it so that our students can be successful, there's a direct connection to state funding that goes with the metrics on the first 2 or 3. And then I've asked Shirley and Dennis to address the budgeting and workload issue that we talked about at length last year, and then finally to work to really reconnect to the community as she kicks off her tenure here in West Plains. And so let's see, if we start with the data here on enrollment. We count enrollment 2 ways. Oftentimes we refer to the head count number, how many students are attending. And so that head count number, whether it's Springfield, West Plains system, or whatever, has everybody that's taken a class. So you may be taking a class if you're an employee here, and you're a part-time student. Or all our dual credit students are in there. And our, all of our students of all kinds are counted. And you can see there that we've bumped below 2,000. We went below 2,000 in 2014 or 2015, and I think in 2018, as we project what the final census numbers are going to be, we're probably going to bump down slightly again. More important than the head count number, however, is the credit hour number, because the credit hour number is directly connected to revenue. So for every credit hour, students, you guys know this, you're paying about $120 to go to school. And so you'll see that has gone down 4 years in a row, and we expect to go down a 5th year. And so, when you lose about, we can all do this math in our head, when we lose about 4,000 credit hours, we just lost about $480,000 that goes into the budget. And so when the state was doing those cuts that we had to deal with, and they cut $450,000 year 1, and then they cut another $460,000 year 2, well, the enrollment essentially was a 3rd cut to your budget when you lose about 4,000 credit hours. And so it becomes critically important for us on this campus to stabilize that and figure out strategies that we don't continue to bump down. But both from the perception that we're thriving and good things are happening, but also simply from it makes it challenging to hit the budget and do all the things we think are important to do. And so that's why I wanted to share those numbers with you. And I'm going to show you the retention data here in a second, but you'll see that the headcount number is bumping down despite the fact that we're doing pretty well on retention. So if we look at the next chart, this is our first to second year retention rate. So how many of our freshman students come back for year 2? So we've gone up the last 2 years. And so well done, folks. Well done. We have lost 40% of the people that start with us by year 2, but that's better than losing 58% of the people that start with us. And so I think there's been good work here on that. I think there's more ground to be made up, but I think there's good work here on that. So let's pop over to the graduation and transfer rate numbers, and we see this is our 3-year graduation rate on West Plains. And we've bumped down 4 years in a row. We've gone up a little bit on the transfer rate, and you see where we are, 37.6%. So how are we doing compared to other 2-year schools in Missouri? And so what you would see there is, you know, we strive on both campuses to be in the top third of all these performance metrics. The top third would be 43.9%. So we're not tremendously off that, but we're about a little over 6% below. And so how do we move that number up? I mean, we want our students to be successful. We want them to graduate. We want them to then transfer on to a 4-year school if that's a part of where their plan is. And so we have some work to do here. And the better we do on the retention and graduation rates, it's going to help us on the enrollment numbers and the revenue as well as making sure that our students are successful. And so how do we change those numbers? You know, and so some of the questions that we might ask are, how are our students faring in developmental classes? Is change needed there? How can we add new students? What programs are in demand that we're not offering? Can GOCAT be a partial answer to that? Are new and expanded allied health programs a partial answer to that? There are lots of questions out there, and I don't know the answers to all of them. But, and I don't expect that Shirley knows the answers to all of them. But I do expect that over the course of this year, with many of you engaged in that, we begin to work out what are our plans to turn these numbers around, and at the same time then stabilize our enrollment and our budget numbers. If we look at the next chart, this is our total number of folks who are receiving degrees. Again, you would expect it to go down because our enrollment's gone down. And so, again, that's a piece of what we will be looking for. Slide 20, this is a good thing. Our course completion rates have gone up. So again, I commend all of our faculty who are working hard to make their students successful. Because there's a lag in data, if we had had performance funding last year, and thank goodness we didn't, you know, that was another idea the former governor had, to tie existing money to performance funding metrics such that you would have gotten an additional cut if we didn't hit all the metrics. West Plains would have been the only 2-year school to have missed 2 of the 6 performance funding measures. Graduation transfer rate and course completion, again because of the data lag. We won't miss that this time. And so we lobbied very hard for no performance funding decreases last year, and that carried the day, and so we didn't have an additional cut as a result of that. But I think none of us in the room want to be the only 2-year school that missed the most performance metrics compared to the community colleges that are in Springfield. So While we've been making progress on some of these metrics the last 2 years, I firmly believe that we can do better, and I'm confident that our faculty, staff, and administrators here, working together with support from the state, with support from the system, can put a plan in place to move these numbers over the course of the next couple of years. You know, as I mentioned earlier, Governor Parson has 2 focus areas for the remainder of his first term: infrastructure, workforce development. There may be an opportunity to roll out new or expanded allied health and technical programs through collaboration with local businesses and the state if we demonstrate market need and the capacity to roll those programs out. And I believe there is likely to be new state funding coupled with those programs. This will help our enrollment numbers and frankly should also raise our completion numbers. Enrollment growth and a robust graduation rate are critical to the success of any campus. It's true here as well. Together they convey a thriving campus which draws the community to it. Success here is also crucial to our financial stability as tuition revenue helps fund compensation increases, new positions, program support, and everything else. 98% of our budget is made up of state money and tuition money. Through improving retention, graduation, and class completion rates, adding new programs, implementing different recruitment strategies, we can stabilize our enrollment numbers and begin to grow again, but it won't be easy. So that leads me to item 3, and we'll go back to slide 15 for a minute in case you guys have forgotten what item 3 was. Our budgeting and workload issues. So we have an opportunity to tackle these related issues now. I know that Dr. Lawler, Dr. Lancaster, Frank Priest, a faculty task force has been working on this for several months. I look forward to the completion of this item and appreciate the really good work to find a consensus resolution of this matter. And then finally, we need to get people in this community and area excited again about what is happening at this university. But that won't happen unless all of us in this room are excited about what's happening at this university. If we all don't have a positive attitude, no one else in the community will. There are tough challenges ahead. I thought you ought to see what the data is. But I will tell you, I am very optimistic about our ability to tackle these challenges, move the needle on these numbers, and make a real difference in the lives of our students. There's real opportunity for additional state funding. All of that means that we can begin growing this campus again. And so my challenge to everyone, let's work together this next year. Make it a really important one in our history, but most importantly, make it a really important one in the lives of our students. And I'm going to now pass the baton over to Shirley to give you some of her initial thoughts as she begins her term as Chancellor at West Plains. Shirley?
Thank you, President Smart. I am delighted to be here today. During the last 3 months, I have heard incredible stories from everyone I meet. Many of you in this room have told me of your success stories, and they're related to Missouri State University, West Plains. And many of those success stories are because someone in this room helped a student, encouraged someone to make a change in their life. This university is really at the heart of this community. A more impressive faculty and staff I don't think I've ever seen on a 2-year campus. It is an outstanding staff that has a heart for students, an incredibly impressive faculty. The 5 professors have had books or journal articles published within the last year. And again, our outstanding staff work hard every day to make certain that our students have what they need. A recent survey of our West Plains graduates showed that 95% of our graduates were either satisfied or very satisfied with their experience here on this campus. Again, we're at the heart of this community, and every day I am told that story. Today alone, I have ran into about 5 or 6 individuals who have either passed through my office making a delivery, served my lunch to me, or helped me with an IT issue that told me about their West Plains story. And it's a life-changing story. And faculty and staff, you were at the heart of that. You were at the center of that. It's a great place to be. Looking at some of our major achievements, as you all know, we went through a full Higher Learning Commission accreditation in 2014. This campus was given a full 10-year accreditation. But we went through the Year 4 assurance review that's just required as part of the standard pathway process. And during that review that took place this last November 6th and 7th, we got a great report. The final report was favorable with all 21 objectives being met. There were 2 areas that were met with some concerns, some suggestions. Our academic program review process needed some shoring up, which we can do. And our China campus will require some internal follow-up, which again, we can do. Also, we were notified just recently that the nursing program also received a strong stamp of approval by the Accreditation Commission for Education when they were granted full accreditation for 8 years, the longest period of time a nursing program can receive accreditation. We're incredibly proud of our allied health programs. I have been thrilled all summer to see the emails come across my computer recognizing students in the national spotlight. The Agriculture Club and our Phi Beta Lambda, our student business organization, all won national competitions. Our volleyball team received national recognition for their outstanding grade point average. I think that's a great testament to the quality of education that our students receive. And of course, we are very proud of the fact that our basketball team were the NJCAA Region 16 champions. And we hope everyone turns out as we open up our volleyball and basketball seasons, come out and help us support those teams. Again, looking at some of the major achievements of faculty and staff, we presented these to our Board of Governors just recently in June. Here are some well-deserved awards received by our faculty and staff just this past year. In 2017, you had a ribbon cutting on GOCAT, the Greater Ozarks Center for Advanced Technology. Remember that because we talk about GOCAT a lot, that acronym. You cut the ribbon and you had a flood. And it just goes to show, although I tout that strong partnership, just to tell you how strong they were, they pulled it back together, and that fall they opened classes. I've seen a lot of partnerships come together on a lot of technical programs, but this is one of the strongest rural partnerships I have ever seen. When I have sat at the table with that group this past summer, we're the 2-year degree granting institution. South Central Career Center is at the table. Our Workforce Investment Board, front and center. Our city is providing us with the building as strong supporters. Community Foundation of the Ozarks is there. Our superintendent of schools, our economic developer, we're all there with outstanding instructors who have stopped by my office to tell me how excited they are this fall to have students in those classes working toward those degrees in advanced manufacturing or alternative energy, whichever certificate they choose. And we're excited to grow those and move forward. An incredibly strong partnership that we hope to hold up as an example of a program that could be funded with our Governor Parson having as a priority workforce investment. Hass-Darr, if you looked to the north today, you see that it is becoming a finished facility. This facility would not be possible today if it weren't for the generosity and support of the Hass-Darr families. I don't believe the Hass family is with us this afternoon. Well, there's Mary. There is Mary. Thank you for stepping up and telling me you were back there, Mary. Very, very strong, long-time supporter. And that building would not be possible if it were not for the support of Mary Shedd Hass, a former Board of Governor and a long-time supporter. Her father, I hope, is here today, Judge William T. Hass, and her brother, who we are privileged to get to have as an instructor on this campus from time to time. Bill and Virginia could not be here today, the Darrs, but they'll be with us at the ribbon cutting next month. That facility, Hass-Darr, will provide a central location for a variety of services. These include a long-requested gathering space for students, the Carol Sylvie Student Union. Carol's front and center today, named for Carol, a long-time beloved educator at this institution and now serves on our Board of Governors. The William and Virginia Darr Honors Program, the Drago College Store, named for the Drago family in honor of Vivian, the Veterans Center, tutoring services, the admissions office, and other much-needed classroom and administrative office space. We are incredibly grateful to the generosities of those families. Mark your calendar for September the 26th when we hope to cut the ribbon on that building. We did receive a grant that will create an outdoor amphitheater. This amphitheater we hope to have open in the fall of 2019. No university funds were used to, or will be used to construct this amphitheater. And again, it will connect us. It will connect our campus. We hope to make bring Liebeier and Kellett more closely connected. Looking at some of our numbers in student diversity, we're proud of the fact that our numbers have almost doubled in the past 5 years, as you can see from this slide. This is very significant when compared to the diversity statistic for our 7-county area, which is 5.4. Also, with our faculty and staff diversity number, we have increased that, and that's very good news for us as well. There are many benefits for being a part of a system. And here are two very good examples. President Smart has just talked about many of the efficiencies that we're able to accomplish at the Springfield campus and help us with the budget this past year. This campus connects on a daily basis nearly with the Springfield campus. Whether we're calling the Human Resources Department for some direction, some advice from Student Services, or legal counsel. We're very, very fortunate as a 2-year degree granting institution and an arm of a strong university. We're very fortunate to be part of that system and use those services. And of course, President Smart referenced the $700 that everyone will see this month, and that was funded centrally through the Springfield campus. Over the last few years, several factors have required this campus to take a long, hard look at the budget for places to reduce spending. Again, as President Smart just described, those included no increases in state appropriation. We dodged some deep cuts this past year. We've had decreased enrollment and the increased cost of doing business. As a result, the Executive Budget Committee has worked diligently to find ways to cut spending. To make budget for this year, the main initiatives were we gapped 2 faculty positions, math and nursing. And we will be phasing out the respiratory care program in December due to low enrollment. Last year, we were faced with significant reductions in funding from the state, and as a result, 6 full-time staff positions were eliminated and one part-time position was eliminated. Most departmental budgets were cut and travel budgets were cut in half. Everyone here felt the effects of the budget cuts. We're continuing to look for process improvements that will help reduce the budget. We have literally spent days looking at the budget and every line item. IT is a very good example where they went back, they looked at a review of their telecom costs, they went back, recalculated, renegotiated. It was a 60% reduction in overall cost. Small overall savings compared to the big budget, but again, as we look at every line item, we're trying to find savings. I have to give a shout out to Cass Hall, to Russ Squires. We had thought we would vacate Cass Hall. We could not afford the lease. However, Russ Squires, longtime devoted supporter of this institution, came and said, I don't want you to vacate Cass Hall. You need those student services tied directly to Hass-Darr. Stay there, I'll renegotiate with you. He made an incredibly generous negotiation with us, and we will be staying in Cass Hall for the coming year. As President Smart said, we did not have to increase tuition by only $1. We were approved for $6, but because those budget cuts did not come, we did not have to place this burden in the way of tuition to students. Looking at FY19 and beyond, we are focused on recruitment. We've spent this entire summer. We have mailed information out. We have been on the radio. We have been on TV. We have made phone calls to students. The staff has worked hard to try and get enrollment up. As we go into the end of this enrollment season and we start this fall, we'll be down. As I am told by my other two-year colleagues at other institutions, they're all down between 5 and 10%. It looks today like we will shake out down about 8%. Again, the two-year degree granting institution and the economy have a very inverse relationship. When everyone goes back to work, two-year enrollments decline. It's a relationship that has always existed. So as today, we are down, but we will continue to explore ways to grow our enrollment. We are researching new academic programs. We're expanding our online offerings. I've had several faculty come to the office and talk about being excited about expanding online enrollments. We're researching new ways to schedule and offer our courses. We're examining our recruitment efforts by telling the region about a well-kept secret, and we do think we can expand our recruitment efforts. We do a super job, a fantastic job, but we feel like we can tell our story to others outside of this region. We have a lot to offer at Missouri State University, West Plains. Retention, we're reviewing all the retention tools at our disposal, and we have several, and we're looking at them closely. It's imperative that once we recruit students and enroll them in our programs, that we retain them to completion and transfer. We are seeking funding for new career and technical programs. We want to expand those programs at the GOCAT. As we've already stated, it's a tremendous partnership, and we'll continue to work with business and industry to help us move those forward. We're exploring opportunities with Ozarks Medical Center. Tom Keller will be coming to the table with us in September to talk about all the allied health programs, our existing programs, how can we expand nursing, what other programs might we create. We are interested in expanding our teacher education program. We'll have the superintendents in October. We have that meeting scheduled. We have a need for good, quality, well-trained educators in our public school system, K through 12. Community Foundation of the Ozarks has come to us and said, we want to partner with you in that effort. If you'll work with the rural school districts to train teachers to go back out into the rural districts, we'll start scholarshiping some of those students. Initially, for 2019, they've stepped up with 8 scholarships to offer those individuals who would come to us seeking to teach, wanting a teacher's education degree, and then return to the rural school districts to teach. And I think you're all aware that we have the beautiful Gone Hall on this campus. Receive your 2-year degree, and you can receive your bachelor's and your master's in teacher's education right here on this campus. Even though the bachelor's and the master's is part of our outreach program through Springfield, it's a strong partner. It sits right here on this campus. In education, business, agriculture, counseling, educational administration, lots of opportunities. So we continue to build those programs. We'll continue to pursue grants. We have several on campus now, and we'll continue to look to grow our donor support as well. We met with our development board last week, and I'm excited about moving forward with some plans to grow donor support. Looking ahead, we are very affordable. We're an affordable 2-year degree granting institution that produces a quality education. You don't have to go very far, as I've said earlier, to find someone who not only completed a degree here, but who has a successful career, and they give thanks to people right here at this institution, faculty and staff who encourage them. We have both transfer and career and technical programs. We are student-centered. We are so student-centered. I am amazed when I get an email from a math teacher that lays out a tutoring plan for when he will be at the Lofts and what the schedule will be to meet with students at the Grizzly Lofts to tutor. And then I go to a faculty meeting and they're passing around sign-up sheets for when can you drop in to see Jerry Trick, tutor at the Grizzly Lofts, and bring refreshments for those students. We are student-centered. Small class sizes, a full college experience. We have dorms, the Grizzly Lofts, the Grizzly House, a strong SGA. The study abroad opportunities are amazing. Look at the list of where our students have been in these last few years. Ecuador, Greece, Turkey, Ireland, all from Missouri State University, West Plains, a 2-year degree granting institution. We are part of a university system, and we can take advantage of many of the opportunities that a system provides, and it has been a tremendous value to us. Looking ahead, we continue to focus on our mission of empowering students to achieve personal success to enrich their local and global communities. I know from personal experience with visiting with many of you that your local community has been improved because you received a degree from here. Your life has been enriched because of your degree from here. I've heard those personal stories. It's evident that we have a faculty, a staff, and students who believe very strongly in the mission of West Plains. It's evident that this campus is extremely important to the residents of the community, and it has been for 55 years. I believe with all of us together, we can pull together and continue to grow and serve the education needs of this area. And as I say many times, that if we'll just stay focused on students, because remember that each day, what you do for a student does make a difference. I'm delighted to be here. I am glad to be a Grizzly, and I look forward to an exciting year. Thank you.